This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Harry's. For guys like you who want a great shave experience at a fraction of what you're paying. Go to harrys.com and get $5 off your first purchase by entering the code WhatTheTech when you check out.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew here, and of course I'm joined by the one, the only, Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Hello, Andrew.
Hello,
I'm sorry.
Paul.
I'm supposed to say pretty good.
Pretty good. It is a pretty good day. It's beautiful here in New York. I don't know how it is where you are.
It was chilly today when I went for a walk, but it was beautiful. Yesterday was 60s, gorgeous.
It is a perfect
spring
day.
has arrived,
and it's election day here. It's a primary day.
Right.
So everybody's very political on Facebook. So everybody's become a poli-sci major over the last 24 hours, and I want none of it. I want none of everybody's opinions on how the world should be ran. Last week, it was an interesting show. We did the show, and we pretty much stuck with one topic, and we really didn't have a lot on the notes. And people loved it. I got so much positive feedback about last week's show.
Really?
So maybe we should continue doing shows with no notes.
Okay.
After all the years that we've done the show, it still hasn't caught on to me that maybe we shouldn't prepare at all and go into it totally blind.
I think some basic framework is desirable. If we can go off script,
Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing. I have a lot to talk about today. I want to talk about this little toy I got here. We're going to talk about that, including Google getting into the podcasting world, which is a couple years too late, but I want to talk about that because there's a lot of
I still think it's a big deal, by the way.
You think it's a big deal?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do also. And I didn't imagine it would have so much, polarizing discussions happening around.
Let's not ruin it, but there's stuff to talk about there.
We'll get to it, but before we do, I want to thank our sponsor, Harry's. Guys, we've been talking about Harry's for a while. They are the makers of really high quality, high performance razors. It's German blades. It's crafted by shaving experts. So you're not getting some piece of garbage. Like you walk into a store and you buy a razor, you have no idea what you're buying until you try it, and then you end up like me with your face torn apart. I've told the story 1,000 times. I've used the same razor almost my entire adult life. They're these cheapo razors that work really well for me because my skin is really sensitive. And I destroy my face when I use those like Mach 3 and Mach 10 and all those crazy, 10 Mach razors that you buy in the store. But buying them is also a hassle. You're going into the store, you're spending 30-something bucks on a pack of 8 blades, and it's like locked away. You got to wait for the guy to show up. It's a crazy, crazy thing. Why not just order them for half the price, by the way, than those other 8-pack blades? Order them for half the price at harrys.com. It's delivered to your door, no shipping. It's unbelievable. Also, you get $5 off your first purchase when you use promo code WhatTheTech at checkout. That's the best part of this. It's harrys.com and use offer code WhatTheTech at checkout, which is phenomenal. The other couple things about these guys is that they are really big supporters of their users, of their clients, of the people that are purchasing the products. If you buy a Harry's razor, tweet them. Tell them that, you bought the razor and you absolutely love it. They're really, really good people. I highly suggest this. Harrys.com. Use offer code WhatTheTech at checkout and get $5 off your first purchase when you enter WhatTheTech in there, which is great. Listen, I've been using them for a long time. My father now uses a Harry's razor, and he was a guy that never, ever, ever would have went and bought a razor like this. So he's now converted over to the Harry's world, and you should also. Harrys.com/WhatTheTech. Harrys.com. Use offer code WhatTheTech at checkout. Get $5 off. I keep thinking there's a link at the end, but there isn't. I don't know why. I've made up that entire thing. Love these guys. Great people at Harry's. So Paul.
Yes, sir.
Did you shave with your Harry's razor today?
I did not.
You did not. Oh, tisk tisk.
Still scruffy.
Oh, tisk tisk. I don't know where to begin. Do you want to talk about the watch first? This This thing that I got over the weekend.
Now, why did you? Yeah. First of all, explain yourself.
Okay, so
why?
I didn't buy this.
Oh, you got this because you bought it from Verizon or something.
Because I got the Verizon phone. By the way, I dropped this phone and I cracked the screen.
Was it already fixed?
No, it has not been fixed. Verizon wants, the Assurant or the insurance company wants $200.
Let me see it.
To fix it. It's actually not bad. It's on the edge. I don't know if you can see it. Hold on.
I can't really see it.
Delete. Hold on. Clicked on. All right, there we go. I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-mm.
Is it noticeable to anybody? It's on the edge. It's not bad at all. Like, it's on the edge and it's cracked, but it's like cracked all the way down, you know?
Do you think the curved screen made that easier to happen?
Yes.
Because there's no edges?
Yeah. That's exactly what happened because I dropped it face first. And even though, normally when you drop it, it'll catch like on these because these stick out because the screen is curved.
The edges are all
it just went
exposed.
straight on glass. And the other thing that kind of sucks is that there aren't that many glass screen protectors for these phones yet.
Right.
So I really didn't have a screen protector. I've been back ordered for like months with a company to send them. And it finally happened. I dropped my phone. Somebody asked me for the time and I wasn't paying attention. I grabbed this thing out of my back pocket and just went face first right on the floor. And I was so angry when it happened. They just walked away. They didn't even want the time at that point. They just
let alone be blamed for what just happened.
Yeah. So I have to get it fixed. I'm just gonna wait a week or so until I do it.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know if I had insurance on the phone, so I called Verizon and I asked them, "Hey, listen, I just want to make sure I got insurance on this thing just in case something were to happen." And luckily, I have insurance, but I was gonna play it off like that, but like, "Oh, what do you mean I don't have insurance? Please add it to my phone in 60 days. I'll break it." So I had to go through the insurance thing, but it was interesting because I did it online through the customer service, and you tell me if you've ever heard this. So I'm telling the Verizon rep, I'm like, well, how much would it cost if something happened, blah, 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 and they go, it's $199 going through the insurance company, but you should call us first to see if we could do anything about it. I don't know what that means. So
right.
We'll find out in a couple days, won't we, when I call them up. So I was under that Verizon deal where if you purchased the S7 Edge or the regular S7, you qualify to either get the Gear VR headset or get the S2, the Gear S2 smartwatch.
Oh, which is what you got.
Which is what I got. I don't know why anybody. I don't know why anybody would get the Gear VR because the Gear VR is like $100 and this thing is
trying to reach behind me. Sorry.
Yeah. The Gear VR is $100. Go ahead. You reach over. What do you have there? You got one too? Is that the much rumored Surface Watch?
Previous Gears.
Is that the Surface Watch?
Yeah. No, I was going to try to show you the previous generation of that device, but
I mean, can you pull it up or no? It's not there.
No, it's connected to something.
So, it's like $100 for that Gear VR, right? It's not that expensive. You could either get that or this is worth $300. Get this. Why you wouldn't pick this is baffling to me. Now,
well, some people might want the VR thing.
Now, some people might want it, but you're getting, $200 more as far as the value goes, and it probably shows you how many of these things they're selling if they're giving away a $300 watch. With I think
they
T-Mobile
made a controversial decision to go with Tizen or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. You know how I feel about smartwatches. I don't really like them. I think they're stupid. That is a technical term, actually, on why I don't like them. They're stupid. I have to tell you though. It's pretty cool, like I get it. I get the fact that I could actually make phone calls on this thing. I think this thing is 3G. It's not even 4G.
Sure.
So it's connected. I don't even know how it's connected, but I could actually make phone calls and pretend I'm Dick Tracy on this
probably
thing.
Just Bluetooth.
No, but I didn't have my phone on me. I think it's connected.
Oh, you're saying it's directly connected?
I think it's directly connected. Guys, I'm going to sound stupid here, but I've only been using this thing for 2 days now. And I haven't had a lot of time. I've just kept it on to see.
I would be shocked if you could do that, but that's interesting.
Because it's a thing that on Verizon that says activate for $5 a month. So I think what it's doing is connecting to the network.
Connected to Wi-Fi, or you're out in the world?
I'm out in the world.
Okay.
It's not the $300 version. It's a $150 version. And it has to be tethered. I don't know. Mine has 3G on it. So Maybe I'm wrong. Listen, who knows? You guys probably know more than me because I've spent very little time with this. And I went into this as a layman. I didn't do any research on this thing. I didn't read about the features. I just wanted to learn it like a normal person. You know, a lot of people don't go and do a lot of research when they get something like this, and I kind of wanted to experience it that way. It's really cool that it buzzes, and I can see my voicemail, my text messages, and I could answer phone. So right now I got a Snapchat. I could actually, it'll tell me I have a Snapchat, but I can't actually view it on this. You know what I mean?
Like it's app to app. I mean, I think the biggest problem with this platform is that because it's a different platform from Android, it's not Android Wear. Not everybody is supporting it, and I'm sure the theory is Samsung is popular enough that these apps will come on board. But problem, like you've noticed, is the Google apps aren't on there. So
yeah, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's strange. So this is why I didn't get one. I didn't even look at it really because of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you, it's very comfortable. It's a pretty watch. I mean, with the faces, I actually would have opted in if I had like a choice on which one to get. I probably would have gotten, the classic, like with
a metal
the leather band and the metal bezel. Yeah, I probably would have gotten that. This is cool, but oh look, it comes in a rose and a platinum, so you can actually get a very expensive version of this. I don't know why anybody would.
Of course, why would anyone not get rose gold?
Okay, so 3G connectivity. Yeah, so I have 3G on this.
Yeah.
It's $5 a month.
Okay. So by the way, right. So the cheapest version has only Bluetooth. And then if you buy it from a service provider, you can get a version with 3G/4G.
Okay. That's the one that I have. And they're charging me $5 a month.
Okay. 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 By the way, it says, well, see, this says it requires, oh no, that's Bluetooth. Yeah. So with the 3G, 4G version, it says you can make calls directly from your wrist with a built-in speaker and microphone. Stay connected even when your phone isn't nearby.
Yeah.
So the typical, the Bluetooth version, of course, you need the handset, but it would still work, right? If your phone was nearby.
Which still works. Most people have their phone nearby.
Yeah,
anyway,
most people have it. But that's for like a runner or something, or you just, that's cool.
Well, I think it makes sense for that. And this is like the sport version, So if you're running and you want to, just to get basic messages, that's cool. I found a weird glitch, and I can't turn it off for the life of me, even when I turn it off. If it thinks I'm walking too fast, it puts me into car mode. In drive mode, but it puts.
That's great. You actually walked fast
enough.
So
I walk fast enough where it thinks I'm driving, and it puts it into drive mode. And I guess it means like I'm running also. Like if you're a runner, you want it to go. So all my text messages, it says, "Hey, I'm driving right now. Please leave a message."
That's amazing.
And I can't turn it off for the life of me.
Right.
But I am pretending to be Dick Tracy and walking around the house just talking to people like this.
Yeah, because you can. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. The bezel thing is cool. It's very Apple-like, though. Let me see if I could turn this off, because it even has the same exact layout.
Can you bring it up to the camera?
Yeah, I'm going to try this. I don't know if you could see. You see the little circles?
Circles in a circle.
Yep. Yeah, it's exactly.
Well, the Apple one's a mess, though. So the Apple one is a bunch of circles all jumbled like jelly beans in a pot. Like they're just all jumbled together.
Yeah. Listen, it's cool. 2 days I've had it. So let's see if I continue to use it. I have a big problem with keeping a watch on. I'm a watch collector, but I don't really wear a watch every day. So even these bands, the fitness bands, it's hard. But I want to I don't want to do any research on this thing. Like I'm glad that I discovered it had 3G today. You know what I mean? Like it's
that's really neat.
Yeah. Like I'm going in this really dumb and blind because I don't really know much about the device, and I just want to learn it as I go along, and experience something like a real boy, and not
blind would be a good name for a tech blog.
A what?
A tech blog.
What should we call it?
Dumb and blind.
Dumb and blind. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Blind. Listen, it's no Surface Watch. Did I tell you about the email that I got? I got an email from somebody claiming that they saw you wear a Surface Watch.
Oh no!
And they knew it wasn't the other band. It wasn't the Microsoft band, but he's 100% sure that this is a Surface Watch, and a Surface Watch is him. That's why I've been making that joke. I can't believe I forgot to send you an email.
That's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, I wear the band every day, the Microsoft band. I recently, I don't think I wore it out in public though, but I recently reconfigured my Moto 360, right, which is the Android Wear watch.
Which is a great watch.
It's
one of the better ones.
Circular like that. And of course I have an Apple Watch, but I never wear it, and I haven't done. I haven't done anything with the Apple Watch in a while. It's just so incredibly boring. But I did get a new watch band for the Apple Watch because I'm very trendy like that.
You are. You're super trendy.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so I thought it was really funny. The guy was screaming about the Surface Watch and can you find out when it's coming out? And I go, listen, Microsoft has enough problems right now, guys.
I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Surface
Watch, that's funny.
Just give it some time. I
should just tweet about Surface Watch right now, and then we can move the conversation away from Surface Phone for a little while.
Yeah. Let's see what happens when that happens.
Surface Watch.
So where do we begin? So I just wanted to bring that up before we went into anything. But do you want to talk about the Google Play music with podcasts for a little bit? Because you made a post on Thurrott.com if anybody wants to go there. You also have a layout. You took a lot of screenshots and everything about how it looks. I've known about this for almost a year and a half now. They sent me an email to submit my stuff to them. And we did. And they approved everybody. And they did nothing with it for some time.
Yeah. No, Twit, same thing. This has been, in fact, I think the opening line of my story is something like, "This is one of those long-running open secrets. Like this has always been happening."
So, I guess where do we begin with this? So they've entered in the podcasting game now.
Yeah. So my two big points about this are one, Android has never had a built-in podcast solution, and that kind of stinks because Android is 81% of all mobile devices or all smartphones. So that's a big deal. Google Play Music comes with Android. It's built in now. That's awesome. It's awesome for us because we have a podcast. It's awesome for people who love podcasts. I mean, I have different, I use Pocket Casts. I recommend it. People have different podcast apps they like, but just having it in the OS, I think helps everyone. That's
Pocket Cast is my go-to on Android. When I'm still really old school with this. I like to keep my devices separate. And most of the time when I listen to when I binge on podcasts, I actually bring my iPod with me.
Your iPod?
My iPod Touch.
So you download these
and things. I download everything. It's a really bizarre way of doing it, but I feel more comfortable doing it that way, just in case, my battery's bad or I want a secondary device.
Okay. I mean, I do this. I use my phone, but it's the same thing. I don't stream podcasts. I download them to the device. I don't even know when it happens, just whenever they come out. And then later I listen to them. But the second point, though, that about Google, I should actually, maybe there's 3 points. I should say, just as a side note, I kind of wish they had a Google Play podcast app instead of adding it to Play Music. There are probably various reasons why they kind of threw it into music.
Yeah.
One of them might be just that adding yet another app to Android is something that means it wouldn't happen until the next version of Android. And this is a way to get them into existing phones. And so there's that. But anyway, the third point, I guess, now is that and I find this to be the most interesting part of this. Google is, they're kind of a weird company, right? So they do things a little differently. If you were to look at podcast apps on any platform, look at the podcast app that Apple built into iOS. They're all very similar. They give you a store experience where you can kind of browse around and see the podcasts are out there. They typically offer you a way to subscribe via RSS if that thing isn't in their store or whatever. They give you controls for determining how many episodes download at a time, whether to keep a certain number of episodes, that kind of stuff. You playback speeds, all the usual stuff. Google Play Music has some of that stuff. It actually doesn't have all of it, but they've integrated podcasts into their built-in playlists. And so if you're familiar with how the internet radio station stuff works on, say, Apple Music or on Spotify, it works the same way on Google Play Music.
Yeah.
And let me just bring it up now, so rather than just
I'm trying to pull it up, but for whatever reason, it's just saying loading. First of all, the logo looks like a pizza now.
Yeah. I actually they've redone all the new logos. So as we're recording this, it's Tuesday afternoon, right? So at the top of the main UI in Google Play Music on the web, and I think this is true on Android as well, is the Listen Now experience. And if you go there, it says it's Tuesday afternoon, play something for, and then this changes according to the day and time. Boosting your energy, laughing out loud, today's biggest hits, focusing. This is music with no lyrics, which is something I would want to listen to when I'm working to a beat, et cetera, et cetera. The laughing out loud one is actually, it's only podcasts, but the way it's set up is it sort of suggests that they could build podcasts into other playlists, which are kind of presented as internet radio stations.
Interesting.
So if you think, so if you think about a typical workout playlist or internet radio station that might be created by any music service. So we'll have all these up-tempo songs like lots of Eye of the Tiger type stuff, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the songs are all like 3-5 minutes long. They're all kind of, and it's X number of songs. Maybe it changes over time, whatever it is. So the Google thing, I'm looking at it now. So the three of them, but one of them is called Conversations with Funny People.
So if I pull, are you looking up on the browser? So I have it pulled up here. So what do I look at?
Oh, go to Listen Now, top left. And then at the top, see the Laughing Out Loud.
Okay, Laughing Out Loud, okay.
And then click on the first one that comes up in Laughing Out Loud.
Okay.
Conversations with Funny People. So what you see here, so what this is it's a playlist of podcast episodes, right? So they've kind of taken like what people have done with music, which is like playlists or internet radio stations, and they've applied it to podcasts. Now, podcasts tend to be longer. If you look at those podcasts, they're all like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's not all current. Like one of the first one is from May 2012.
Right, but see, this suggests to me that these are curated, and that some person or people think these are the funniest things they've heard.
Interesting.
From different podcasts, and it brings them all into one place. And I actually think this is really cool because this does to podcasts what other services have done to music, which is give you a way to discover something really funny. So maybe you're listening to this thing, and you're going through it, and you're like, yeah, Will Ferrell, it's funny. Tig Notaro, good stuff. And then you get down to, I don't make one up, like Sarah Silverman. Maybe you've never heard of her, or maybe you don't really think it was that funny. But for some reason, this episode hits you the right way, and you might subscribe to her podcast and become a fan of this person. It's kind of a neat way to discover stuff, Now, I've only seen it in the humor thing. I suspect there'll be more of these around. I don't know, but right now it's it looks like it's humor.
It's humor, and there was another one. It's like brainy and witty. There was like another one. Yeah. So I guess they're adding them. It's interesting that they added this, and people always wonder. People always say, "Well, Google doesn't need to do it because there's so many apps on on Android that you could pretty much listen to your podcast on. Google doesn't have to do this." Apple did because Apple kind of invented the podcast, the fact that there was no other place to go to get a podcast for many people. I think that I don't agree with that mentality because Google's plan is, and by the way, the argument is, well, there's no money they can make off this. No, but the money that they're going to make is getting people in their ecosystem. I have not loaded Google Music in over a year and a half, 2 years. I just don't use it.
So the funny thing is, and I've been, this is not to get off on I won't go too far into this, but I actually am using Google Music now, and I subscribe to it. I pay for it. I actually really like it. And the weird thing is, I actually prefer it over other services, including Spotify, which a lot of people I think would assume would be kind of the best one, or even Apple Music, which I think a lot of people on the Apple platform in particular would think would be the best one. But I actually think they're doing something special here. And now that they have added this capability to the application, even though I sort of think it should be different. I mean, it's just from a sort of a platform perspective. It's kind of like Google has it all covered now.
Yeah.
It's kind of a neat thing.
This is kind of the discussion that we've had about Microsoft and what they were doing with Zune, with the Zune player, because it was this concept, the podcasts were incorporated. It was like iTunes, but they never really incorporated it beyond that. They've kind of abandoned the whole podcast thing, which is kind of, it's sad because you don't have as many options on Windows Phone, really. And their podcast app is terrible.
That's true of everything.
You could get Pocket Cast. I mean, Pocket Cast is great on it, but it's not a free solution. You also have to pay for Pocket Cast on Windows Phone. But something like that. It's interesting that they got into this. I think for content discoverability, if you create some sort of playlist and you constantly change it every week, like let's say there's like a best of tech category where every week they curate this list of the best podcasts for that week, and they feature somebody new every week. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. I mean, so it just happened, because you were invited a long time ago. Brad just signed up for it and was accepted right away.
Yeah,
they're open to podcasters.
They had not added video yet, by the way. You can submit your video podcast, but they haven't added the video.
Yeah. So video is one of many reasons why it's weird that this is part of Google Play Music.
I know.
I mean, it really should be Google Play Podcasts, and I wouldn't be surprised to discover over time that that's what happens.
Or do you think they're gonna split the video into the video application, because Google Video is a different app,
like TV and movies or whatever it's called?
TV, movies, and podcasts.
There you go. Sure.
That would be interesting. I've never seen a split like that.
Yeah, let me look. What do they call that? It's Yeah, movies and TV. They could just call it video, and
Yeah.
then it could be movies, TV, and podcast, video podcast. Sure, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. Trying to think if I. Yeah, I don't have. They could put it in YouTube.
That's what someone just said in our chat room. Maybe it might become part of YouTube. I don't know if they've been really, really trying to separate themselves from the podcasting world because there is a lot of content ID issues with podcasts. I know Google is incorporating the same YouTube content ID system that they have on YouTube with their podcast now. So I'm curious to see all the complaints that people are going to get when we're going to see the complaints come up when they start getting flagged for playing a 12 minute piece from some news coverage.
Hey, Google and YouTube specifically has a rich history of dealing with those kind of requests.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in some ways, it's actually ideal for them to be on YouTube because it will be easier for content providers to make those complaints. They're already used to dealing with YouTube. If these things are just distributed through the web or through other smaller services, it's actually harder on the content creators. So, I mean,
talk about a content creator. It's a pain in the ass for a content creator, but how about everyday people that get flagged for nothing? I mean, I made a video on my personal account a couple of years ago where it was me, and I made it in iMovie. I used the stock audio from iMovie and all that stuff, and and they flagged me for copyright, content, whatever it was, and it was the music group that owns the stock audio in iMovie.
Oh, that's crazy. Come on, everyone on earth must be using that and posting it to YouTube.
Yeah, and I got flagged.
That's the point.
And it took like 2 months for them to, say like, oh, okay, we're not going to, but 2 months, the video was down. It's insane. I mean, they need a better system. This automated stuff is not as intelligent as they would hope it is.
Right.
It is interesting. So podcasts are on Google. Guys, the application isn't updated yet. So if you are on Android and if you're using
I haven't gotten
Music,
it. Keep checking back.
Yeah.
They indicated yesterday, or whatever day they released this, I think it was yesterday, that it was happening that day, and it still hasn't. So I don't know. And obviously, if you're on iOS, you're gonna have to wait longer.
Yeah.
And if you're on Windows Phone, you could
never.
Just
Sorry.
just keep using Pocket Cast.
Since we're talking about podcasts, I'm gonna do a little plug here. So the podcast awards are happening, and a lot of our viewers have been nominating our podcasts for a podcast award. If you go to podcastawards.com, there are 2 shows I really would like you to nominate. One is obviously this under technology, and the other one is Mat Men. Mat Men has a real good chance of winning a podcast award, and I would love it if you guys went to podcastawards.com and under sports nominated Mat Men, and under technology nominated obviously What the Tech. I'm going to post a list of friends of the show in our show notes that we're helping, we're supporting, and we're telling our audience to go and vote for. If I could find the URL, I would post it right now. Suncast, if you're listening, please post it in the chat room because I am not prepared to post it. But we'll have it in the show notes. But if you go to podcastawards.com, you could go there under sports, nominate Mat Men, under technology, obviously, What the Tech. It's hat.t2t2.eu. That's hat.t2t2.eu. Those are all the friends of the show, and we want to support them as well. We want them nominated. We want them to win. So if you go there, you could go and help them out as well. But Mat Men for sports, and obviously What the Tech for technology. I want to win something, Paul. I want to win. I want to be a winner for once in my life. Talking about something that is not a winner, and that is the spec update for the new MacBook.
Yeah, let me go look this one up because I'm never going to remember the details of this. But
so they silently updated it.
Well, it wasn't silent. They announced it. I mean,
but it was. I thought it sort of came last week or 2 weeks ago when they had the Apple event.
Sure. I mean, I think the weirdest part about this announcement, honestly, is that they haven't updated the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro. I think both of which were in far more desperate need of updating.
Yeah.
But looking at the MacBook specifically, which debuted last April or whenever in the spring as, the new MacBook, the thing only has a single USB port, and the thing still only has a single USB port. It's like, guys, seriously, just 2. Could you just add 2? Someone reminded me of this on Twitter today. I have often complained about the fact that Surface Pro has always only shipped with a single USB 3 port. I've never understood why. There's plenty of room on the side of this thing. Why not have 2 or 3 ports? It's only ever had 1. It's a problem when you want to connect stuff. But the Surface Pro has also always shipped with a video out port of some kind. I think it's actually always been mini display
Mini
port.
display, yeah.
So you can actually have two things connected to it at the same time that you might use over a single USB-C port. So, the problem with USB-C is that it requires you to bring a dongle if you want to do more than one thing. And it's like just all this extra stuff. And so for the people that need this connectivity, you're carrying the device, which is thin and light and wonderful, but then you have this tangle of crap in your bag. And some people would say, well, what about, for the people that don't need that stuff, so what? Well, for the people that don't need that stuff, having a second USB-C port's not going to ruin the ergonomics or the whatever of this device. It still would be beautiful. I mean, it's crazy like how they do that. So this is not a new version of the device. It's the same device. It's the exact same body. They've changed nothing. It's just that the chipset, it's a Skylake-based Core M processor family, and they're now M3, M5, and M7 options. The price has not changed. The RAM is now 8 gigs across the board. There's no way to upgrade that at the time of purchase or otherwise.
And they've also done the same thing for the MacBook Air.
Yeah, I saw that, right.
MacBook Air is now 8 gigs.
That they did not announce, so that one was actually very quiet, but they did. That's true. They have faster flash storage. It's PCIe based, which I think the last year's model was as well, but it's faster, just faster chipset. Mm-hmm. And the battery life is a little bit more. They're rating it at 10 hours, up from 9. Oh, and I'm sorry, I missed the biggest change of all. Of course, is the rose gold color option.
Excuse me, rosé, as I like to call it.
Rosé gold.
The rosé gold.
Alongside.
So,
others,
first of all, it's a beautiful device. There's no question that this is a stunningly beautiful device. It's exactly what they had done originally with the MacBook Air. When that MacBook Air came out, everybody said, oh my God, look how thin it is. It fits in an envelope. It was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But this is also, if anybody has ever had some, hands-on time, it is ridiculously light. It feels unnatural how light this thing is. It's super, super thin. Beautiful device. So I don't know how much faster those Core M's are with the Skylake chipset.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think they're dramatically faster.
I would imagine they're not, because there really hasn't been that much of an improvement from Skylake.
I don't own one, right? So, I think the biggest issue with these things, aside from the USB, is the quality of the keyboard and the trackpad. Because of the thinness, they don't get the level of throw you would normally have on these devices.
It's a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Intel Core M, and the base model is a 1.1. We're going back into the 900 megahertz.
Sure, but honestly, I think for Mac OS 10, these things will be fine. These machines are not aimed at people who need to do heavy Photoshop or CAD CAM or whatever, video editing, that kind of stuff. Although it would probably do all those things. On Windows-based machines, honestly, Core M processors are not horrible.
On Windows-based,
what's that?
On Windows-based machines.
Yeah. The bigger issue is usually tied to the storage subsystem, and I think by going with fast flash storage, they're overcoming the big issue on these kind of lower end chips. And I know just from playing around with it, Mac OS 10 is smaller than Windows, I guess, more lightweight than Windows. I think it would perform better on this kind of. I think it's fine. The processor doesn't really bother me, and I think too when you talk about anything that's super thin and light, what you're looking for is fanless, silent design, and that's what this delivers, right?
Yeah.
This is the promise of Core M. So I think for a lot of people, that overcomes whatever cons, come with such a processor.
Yeah, 1.2 gigahertz Core M5 with Turbo Boost 2.7 gigahertz. Now it has 8 gigs of memory, running an Intel HD graphics 515. I'm not familiar with that card, so I don't know how great it is. Now, again,
I'm going to try to see.
This is a very basic, you're not doing heavy duty stuff on here, but this goes back into last week's discussion where are people that are buying this laptop, are they looking to do photo editing on their Mac when they could obviously do the cropping and the funny little cute, stickers on your picture with their phone? You know what I mean?
No, that's what I mean. For most people, this is great. In fact, for most people, it's kind of overkill in the sense that, they would be better served by yeah, really. Excuse me one moment.
Excuse me 1 minute. Paul goes, hello. Paul speaking. How may I help you? No, I think,
it doesn't happen very often. Okay.
It's fine for most people. again, this is a very first gen device. It's still not the device that we all listen. We all want this thing to have a Retina display. We all want this thing to. It has a Retina display now.
It does, yeah.
It does, yeah. We want it to have an HD webcam. We want this thing to be super fast. Realistically, it's not possible at this point. This thing is so thin, and the fact that the system on a chip based Core M's and it's fanless, so you can't run it too high. We're in the infancy of this, and this is a good test for Intel because this is the first time that they've actually delivered something like this that's actually doing well. On the mobile level, on this, on a first gen device like this, it's. I mean, I'm essentially thinking, the next 2 generations of these things are going to be really, really good.
Of the MacBook because of the performances.
But because remember, also the OS. I don't think the OS is tuned for the mobile for the M chipset.
I got to disinterrupt this real quick,
okay, go ahead.
So you can. The person who called me.
Yeah.
I can't say who it was, but I just texted him back and said, "Sorry, I'm on a podcast." And I swear to God, this is what he wrote back. He says, "Please tell me you're making fun of the new MacBook." That's beautiful. Okay.
Oh my God.
Sorry about that. That's just fun. That's
awesome.
beautiful. All right. So,
anyway. What? By the way, that is the clip of the week.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other thing, though, I think that's tied to this, aside from whatever happens in the future with Intel, is I think, and we've talked about this, I think that this thing is what replaces the MacBook Air over time, that maybe there are bigger versions coming. There have been rumors about, I think, 13 and 15-inch versions of the MacBook. Maybe this is something they launch mid-year when they, and maybe those things, I don't know if they still Core M or if they have to go Core I, whatever. But that's very exciting. I mean, years ago, literally years ago, in fact, I can figure it out, 2012, about this time in 2012, so 4 years ago, I was in the market for a 15-inch Ultrabook, and at the time there weren't a lot of choices for that kind of thing. And so I was actually looking at the MacBook Air, and I thought, man, if these guys would just release a 15-inch version, and there were rumors at the time, then I might just buy a MacBook Air and just use that. And what they released instead was the MacBook Pro in a 15-inch version. I think the kind you have, but a 15-inch version.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can't do that. It was too expensive, and it's stupid. So I ended up getting a Samsung Ultrabook, 15-inch Ultrabook, and I've just always liked that size. But once again, I find myself thinking, man, if they could get something like this thin, that might be interesting. Of course, on the Windows side, we have something called an LG Gram, which is supposed to be pretty amazing. I think comes in a 15-inch version, is 2-point-something pounds, et cetera. So.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely beautiful, and we joke about it. We talk about how it's not a real computer. But let me tell you, it's you're not going to get a lot of stuff done on there if you're trying to do some Skype video and you're trying to do some video process. It's again, the processor is not there yet. That's not Apple's fault. Apple's the only fault that Apple has is making something too beautiful, Paul.
Yep.
But it's an absolutely beautiful device.
Yep.
But again, this is not the device. 2-3 years from now, we're probably going to say what a great device it is. Look how far along the MacBook Pro has come. I'm sorry, the MacBook Air has come.
So you're obviously basing this on our previous experience with the Air.
The Air was terrible.
Right, and it's fine because the Air turned into something very special.
Yeah.
And every PC Ultrabook in the market is still to this day copying the Air. It's absolutely fine to make that. I mean, the problem is the device as it now stands is not acceptable.
Yeah.
You really have to be a trendy hipster who cares more about that than about actual functionality. And you get into this.
Are people buying computers for functionality, Paul? Are they?
Well, yeah, they should be.
I don't know. People are buying it based on price and based on aesthetics, in my opinion.
So you can whip out this pink thing and be like, "Oh, look at me!
Look at me!"
Look, I think people make this argument about the Apple Watch. I know in the Windows Phone situation with the lack of apps, people are like, it's fine enough. It's good enough for me. It's like we're all settlers.
Yeah.
But as a fashion statement, I don't think that a computer should be form first, function second, right? I mean, I think you should be able to push forward with all of the great looks and the thinness and the lightness and all that stuff, but still have it be as function.
I think the reality is we can't get the performance at that form factor. It's impossible yet. right now.
No, we don't need to. It doesn't need to be that. Like, it doesn't have to be a Core i5 type situation. You know, like I
Yeah.
said, Core M is fine. It's fine. It's not. It's not awesome. I mean, but most people don't have very high-end needs when it comes to computers, right? I mean, we've offloaded so much of what we used to do on computers to other devices like phones and tablets, checking up on social media, playing games, reading, whatever it might be, browsing the web, email even. I mean, computers, I don't want to say have been relegated, but computers have kind of returned to a very pure productivity kind of form factor. I mean, they need to be productive first.
Okay, so let me ask you this: if we're talking about productivity, right, in the workforce, productivity comes from Windows-based machines because you know that the applications are going to work for it. You're not going to have to teach people how to use them. Most people that are of adult age know how to use a Windows-based computer. I have so many friends that are in IT and that are in a corporate environment, and they are telling me that a lot of their companies, I'm not talking about mega 20,000 person, major corporation, but for the most part, a lot of ad agencies, a lot of marketing companies, almost everybody that I know that is in that field is telling me that these companies want to go over to a Mac. And has nothing to do with production. They want to go
over to a Mac.
They want to go over to the Mac because it's aesthetically good looking. And I'm telling you right now, how about schools? Jessica's school is all Mac now. And the other schools converted to all Mac.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but that's very, very rare. Macs are extremely expensive compared to PCs. And compared to the Chromebooks, they're not even in the same category.
I know. And
that's not where education's heading. Not in the sub-college level.
Elementary schools. They're all going to Mac.
No, they're not.
I'm talking about New York City. I'm talking the trend that I've seen in New York City public
specific
schools.
Places, I don't know. Yeah. But that's not happening here. I can tell you that.
I'm talking about the staff more than anything else. I'm talking about the staff. The staff is getting all Mac products, and that's fine. They're probably getting the education thing, but a lot of marketing firms, ad firms, they're all going over to Macs, and I don't understand.
You know what this
why.
is? This is we watch some of the shows we watch. I kind of complain about this. Like we watch House Hunters or House Hunters International, and you know what these shows are really about? They're about the grass is always greener. You know, it's all it is. It's always like Bob and Mary are tired of the long winters in Canada. So they're looking to change things up and they're going to move to Cancun or to some, sunny. We always want like this exact opposite kind of a thing. And like people who think that they're going to go to the Mac and never have problems again have never used a Mac.
It has nothing to do with that. It's the keeping up with the Joneses for a lot of people. I'm not saying that this is the Apple mentality. I'm an Apple user, but I'm a realist. And I know why people want Macs. You give me, my wife had this option at the school. She has a Mac in one of the schools. They gave her a brand new 13-inch MacBook Air to use. But it's it's for her job. Her other job has Lenovo's. They got Macs. They have brand new Lenovo's. Nobody wants the Lenovo's. None of the teachers want the Lenovo's. Everybody's grabbing the Macs.
That's brand success.
That's brand. But again, aesthetics.
This is not. The Mac is a better tool for educators.
Absolutely not. No.
You cannot make that argument and know anything about that.
No,
that's
absolutely
not true.
No, the argument is the argument here is
this is about marketing over This is form over function. This is what I'm talking about. This is
it's always been that. I mean, the thing about the market.
No, of course, I know. Of course it is. I mean, but what's really winning out in education overall in this country is these low-cost devices, and Microsoft is obviously trying to push Windows 10 and low-end Windows PCs. And they literally just talked about this a week ago. They had a big education announcement and talked about the PCs you can buy that start at, I think, $199, including a Lenovo IdeaPad 100S or whatever it's called. But it's also Chromebooks, right? Because they're in the same price range. And Google offers these management solutions for schools, and they're simple and they're cloud-based, and they don't require dedicated infrastructure or dedicated IT staff, which is a big deal for these places and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Look, these things the new MacBook is it's trendy and it's beautiful. And it's not useless, but for that kind of money, there are far more usable machines. And by the way, it's not even the thinnest and lightest of this kind of machine. HP just announced a Spectre that is thinner. I can't remember if it's thinner or lighter. It's one of the two. Than the MacBook. And the MacBook hasn't changed its dimensions.
Yeah.
even though they're on, Gen 2, it's really, Gen 1.1.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, 1 point, whatever they want to call it. 1 point, whatever they want to call it. It is interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The rumors also that it's going to be a whole new updated MacBook Pro at this point, but it is interesting to look at their product line and see where things don't make sense anymore, like an 11-inch MacBook Air.
Yeah.
At this point, doesn't really make sense. So let's see what happens.
But I will say this: this is important to remember.
Yeah.
2 words: rose gold.
Rose gold.
Rose.
That's what I like to call it. Yeah.
Yep.
WWDC, they announced it June 15th, 14th. What's that Tuesday? No, Monday.
It was
13th, June 13th. Yeah, because I'm going to a Mets game on the 14th, so that's how I remembered. I'm not too sure. What are we looking to see announced? Obviously, we're going to get a preview of the next version of OS X, OS 10. We're going to get iOS stuff, but is there any big unveils that we're waiting for?
Well, I mean, WWDC is their build, right? And so it's really a developer show. But the fun, Apple being a hardware maker, they usually launch other, or I should say not usually. They occasionally will launch actual hardware products at the show or announce them. And like I said earlier, I hope that what they release is some upgrades for the Air and Pro, whatever those things might be, just because they're overdue. But really, it's a developer show, right? So what they're going to be talking about are their platforms. And so iOS, obviously, macOS 10, which I think is going to be renamed to macOS, the tvOS, and the watchOS. And the interesting thing about this, from my perspective, I guess, is that I think it was 2 years ago at WWDC, Apple introduced this programming language, Swift, which I initially didn't really think much of, but they've upgraded it a bunch over the past year. They're going to talk. They talk about it a lot in their in their show announcement. I mean, Swift's going to be a big part of it. It's been open sourced. Android is allegedly looking at replacing Java with Swift in Android, which would be amazing. Microsoft could adopt it, obviously, for Visual Studio. It's open source; anyone could use it. And it would behoove Microsoft to do this anyway because they have iOS stuff now in Visual Studio for people that want to develop apps that run on rival platforms. Yeah. We're almost. This is kind of it's probably something not that many people are interested in, but from a programming language perspective, I think Swift has that chance to be the next big thing. The other big things being C, and then C++, and then Java. Like I feel like this has a chance to. And this is like, seriously, if you played this recording to me 2 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. But it has this chance to be sort of like the programming language, right? Because in this mobile device world that we kind of live in, Swift is designed for this kind of thing. It's really easy to read. It's easily maintainable. It's backwards compatible. It's a neat language. I really think, and again, programming being a tiny slice of what probably people care about, I think it's going to be a big deal. I really do.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like they have three. Also, they have 3 different OSs. If you think about this, right?
Four.
Yeah, they have 4. Well, hold on. They have iOS, Mac OS, which the rumors that OS 10 is now going to be called Mac OS.
Yeah, it will. It's in the documentation. It's happening.
And tvOS. What's the other one? Oh, the watchOS. Yeah, watchOS. So 4 different OSs. Wow. So you know what? WWDC really makes sense for them to do every year now, huh?
By the way, if Microsoft had 4 different operating systems, Apple would have gotten up on a stage and made fun of them for that. This is how things have changed. So if you were to go back in time 5 to 8 years, 10 years, whatever it was, they would have ridiculed Steve Jobs would have done it. It would have been hilarious. Everybody would have laughed. He would have gotten a huge applause. And Apple does it, and everyone's like, yeah, it's okay. It's no problem. It's not confusing.
I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy with this one. I think it's going to be more for developers than any other year because they have so much to cover now.
Well, but this is an opportunity to, they're Apple, so like I said, they could just throw hardware in there. It's okay. It's kind of a one more thing kind of deal. I would love to see them. MacBook, the Mac Mini, by the way, hasn't been updated. I think they're still on like 4th generation Intel chips or something. That thing's way out of date. So we'll see what they come up with there. But honestly, across all of those platforms, macOS, iOS, watchOS, tvOS, a lot to talk about there, right? I mean, every one of these will be getting some kind of a major OS upgrade this year. The watch will probably get some kind of a 6 months. They must do
Yeah.
I think that's on a 6-month cycle kind of deal. Where they at least get, I don't know if they do a new watch. I don't know how they do that, but I think this could be a big year for them.
It's interesting. I'm curious to
Yeah.
see what they do. Obviously, it's going to be June 13th, so we have a lot of time, and a lot of the rumors and speculations are going to come across. Of course, I bought a new MacBook, and the new one's coming out. So, and I'm out of the grace period.
Yet, at least. I mean,
Well,
so there's that. And
I hope it doesn't
honestly,
come out now.
uh, there's this stuff that Apple hasn't done that shocks me, right? And so we just complained about all that garbage about the MacBook, right? But why doesn't it have a fingerprint reader for login, right? Why don't they just have like really basic stuff that's been in Windows for a long, long time, like the ability to do a PIN to get into the system very easily, rather than having to ponderously type this gigantic password if that's what you have. It's just like these kind of basic things. Like
the password
they've
thing
really
is annoying.
mastered the fingerprint reader on the iPhone. Why is that not on the Mac?
Well, the password thing is annoying. The fact that every time I install something, I got to put my password in.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's insane.
Like, typing passwords on Mac OS X is nuts. And years ago, when was it Vista or Windows 7? I think it was Vista introduced UAC, and you had it would occasionally pop up those dialogues to do secure
lost
things.
Their minds.
Apple made fun of it, but they've had the same thing in OS X for years. They had it then, and today, that situation is like you said, that when you have to buy things or whatever, that's what that is. That happens way more in OS X than it happens in Windows. It's far more annoying on OS X.
Yeah.
I do sort of feel like OS X has been kind of left by the wayside as these other mobile platforms have raced forward, that they don't really afford it as much attention. I mean, there's a release every year, but it just, I don't know.
It hasn't evolved. It hasn't evolved as quickly as other things that they're developing. The evolution of OS X has kind of stayed. They minor changes here and there, but there has not been a major overhaul of this operating system in God knows years. Forever. I mean, I can't even. I don't even want to.
By the way, maybe
there
doesn't need to be, but I mean, there's weird kind of user experience things that are really halting and low quality on Apple platforms. For example, on the Mac, the folders for some reason are aqua colored. They're light blue. You can't change it. You can't do any. Like I guess you could buy an app or something that fixes it, but. And likewise on the Mac, on iOS, like on an iPhone, your icons on each home screen have to start at the upper left and they move top to bottom. You can't you can't even place stuff where you want them. And so if you have like a beautiful background that you want to see through the icons and have everything be over on the left, that's too bad. You can't do that. And these are like such weird little detail-oriented things.
Yeah, it's a little Apple thing.
For a company that's often lauded for its design prowess. I mean, it's like they're real one way on this stuff. I mean, they just seem to. It happens, and they stop thinking about it.
I was trying to think of. I had a weird issue with something. Oh, you know what it was? I have a relative. They're still using that iPhoto suite. They're not using Photos. They're using iPhoto. Okay.
Sure.
And when you sync the photos in the iPhoto library, do you know where it goes?
When you sync it?
Yeah. So let's say you got a camera, right? Like let's go old school. You got a camera, you plug it in, and iPhoto opens up, is it iPhoto? Is it called iPhoto? iPhoto. Yeah, I think it is iPhoto. Yeah, because now the new ones is Photos. So iPhoto pops up and goes, "Do you want to sync all your photos?" And you say, "Yes, I do." And you sync all the photos.
Right.
Where does it go? You would imagine it would go in the Photos folder, right?
Somewhere, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, there is a Photos folder. There is a Photos library that it loads up. So your Photos library loads up, and the way to access the files is to right click on it, and then you got to go show package contents. And then you got to find the folder. It's a little convoluted. Now, obviously,
you're talking about a legacy.
It's a weird legacy thing, yeah, and it's still in here. It still does that. Obviously, you could go and you could set the folder yourself, and it'll save you a lot of headache, but most people don't do that.
Sure.
I think it's like a weird Apple thing, It's a weird Mac thing.
Yes.
Like, you want to actually have a folder with the photos in there that you could go and access and look at? Pff, what are you, nuts? Better use our application. And the other question is, why do you care? Yeah, why do you care to use, if you get it in iPhoto, then you see it in iPhoto. You could just access it that way. It's weird. It's like a weird Apple thing.
There's a lot of weird
New
Apple things.
Listen, I love my having a Mac. I enjoy it because it's a different operating system, and I like to learn stuff, and I like to be in all the ecosystems. But the reality is, if I wasn't willing to spend the money, there'd be no way that I want to buy a Mac. It's crazy. There's no reason why I need a Mac. I get it because I like it. It's pretty, Paul.
Sure.
The exact reason why.
Wow, that's okay.
Yeah, I've told you this. How many times we've discussed? Why do I buy this and not a Lenovo? I like it. That's why the trackpad's good, and I think it's pretty. Like everything.
I think I'm going to write it. I'm going to write something about trackpads soon. We've
Can
talked about this a lot.
Can I be quoted? Can you quote me in your article?
You know what did this for me was on my last flight, the trip where I took a flight. I brought that ThinkPad to review, and it has that nubbin thing, which I love. And I never took my mouse out of my bag once. I used that for everything. It was awesome. And then on this most recent trip, I shouldn't have done this, but I took the Surface Book, and it's a good trackpad, but man, I needed the mouse. Like, it just was frustrating. And these things, it's funny, like, to me, this kind of thing really matters. I feel like HP has done a really good job on most of their machines with the trackpad.
Your video froze.
Did it really?
Yeah, it did. You want to toggle it?
Yeah.
Handsome Paul in black and white. There you go.
Lenovo's does a really good job, but I just pulled my MacBook Air out of the closet, and which is where all MacBooks should be, and I actually just installed dual boot Windows again. I just kind of want to play around with that, but I've been playing around with Mac OS 10, not to use Mac OS 10, but just to kind of get a feel for the trackpad thing, and it's nice. They really do a good job. I mean. So I don't know. I don't know what this turns into, but I have a little let's talk about trackpads kind of thing in my head, like because it's it's something to run into every single day when you use these things.
We still haven't spoken about the evolution of the phone, have we?
No, let's do that for the after show.
Okay, we'll say that in the after show because it's been in the notes for weeks now, and we haven't done it.
Let's get rid of that.
Let's get rid of let's get this through, guys. If you're watching live, 160 people right now watching live, which is great. In our chat room. Everywhere else also. I mean, it's a nice little live audience. Plus, we're on Facebook Live. We're streaming live on Facebook Live, testing out the platform and see how it is. I'm shocked how good the platform is. So easy. It's actually one of the easier streaming platforms out there. Guys, we're going to be doing our post show now. If you're watching live, stay tuned. You can watch the post show. We do it live each and every week here following What the Tech. If you're listening to the podcast, go to patreon.com/whatthetech, and you could get our bonus show there. We have a number of topics. Every week we pick something else and we just talk about it. It's literally Paul and I having a conversation after the show. There's nothing formal about it, except I do an intro, so I guess it is a little formal. I actually started as if, you know what? Forget about that. It's extremely formal.
It's incredibly formal.
It's incredibly formal.
In fact, we dress up for it.
Yeah, I do. I have to go change right now. Patreon.com/whatthetech. You get access to it there, and it's a lot of fun. And you can fund us there, give us a couple of bucks there, and keeps the show going. Guys, Thurrott.com, all things Paul Thurrott. Paul, anything coming up?
No. Not really.
Nothing coming up. Follow Paul on Twitter at
no
Thurrott.
travel through the end of the month. Anyway.
Okay, perfect. You can follow me at Andrew Zarin. You can follow the GFQ Network also, GFQ Network. Guys, subscribe to the podcast. If you're using Android, let us know how it is to subscribe to us on the music. It's a weird name, right? It's like Google Play Music Podcasts.
I actually saw. I went through their site they have for podcasters, and at some point it actually said at the top Google Play Podcasts.
Google Play Podcasts. Okay.
And I was like, that's interesting, but it's Google Play Music.
Yeah, it's possible they're going to split this into its own thing. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, it seems like they should.
Yeah. Go there and follow us. So you're not traveling.
No, not for a few weeks.
Excellent. So Paul and I will be on a regular schedule. Until next time, guys. Take care.